All right, good morning, Create and Bake, or good afternoon, depending on when your class is running. Today I am going to show you how to make pretzels. So what you need is 200 mils of warm water. To that, I am going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. And I'm just using a normal teaspoon because sometimes we don't always have the correct measures. And I'm going to adjust this recipe so that it's something that you could do at home if you don't have the correct equipment. I also need a teaspoon and a quarter of dried yeast. And I'm just going to mix it around a little bit. And then I'm going to pop some Glad wrap over this. I'll just bring you down here so you can see. And I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes. And what I want to happen is I want it to start to activate like a foam on top of it. So the sugar will help feed the yeast and it will make it activate the foam. So then we'll work towards putting it into our dough. Okay, so I'm back. I will show you the next stage. I'm just putting you down there so you can see. All right, so I am going to add 2 cups of, no, actually 2 1/4 cups of flour. So one, make sure it's nice and smoothed off, I should say, in the cup, because you want to make sure that you get the correct measurements. You could also weigh this up if you don't have a proper cup measure using scales. So yeah, you could do that too. All right, so next I'm also going to add my teaspoon of salt. So I've just got pink rock salt. I'm just going to grind enough in here to make a teaspoon. And I'm also going to add a tablespoon of oil. And again, I'm just using my tablespoon. So, tablespoon of oil. I'm going to make a little well in the center of my bowl. And as you can see, my yeast and my water has foamed up really nicely. So I'm just going to mix this in. I'm going to use my spoon just to get it started, and then I'm going to pop my hand in there for it to form into a dough. All right, so you want your dough to be nice and soft. If it's too firm, you may need to add a little bit of water before you keep mixing it, because it's really hard to add water to a dough once you've actually mixed it, and it just doesn't make the consistency right either. So we want to form a smooth dough, and we want to knead it for a few minutes. So to knead it on the bench, actually I'm going to move my chopping board out the way because my chopping board moves, and I'm actually just going to knead it straight on the bench. So when you need to use your thumbs, bring it in, and use your thumbs to roll it. Bring it in, and the idea is that we want to get our dough nice and smooth on the top and all the little crinkles underneath. So we want to make sure that our dough has a lovely smooth texture. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my bowl with a little bit of cooking spray, and I'm going to pop my dough back in my bowl, and I'm going to cover it with some Glad wrap, and I'm actually going to let it sit for about half an hour because I want it to actually prove and double in size, I believe. I'm just double checking the recipe because it's not something I've cooked for a very long time. So yeah, we want it to double in size. So if you look at my dough, nice and smooth there. I'm just going to grab some cooking spray. So I'm just going to spray my bowl a little bit because I don't want this to stick to the bowl. Pop it in the bowl there, and then I'm just going to grab some Glad wrap. and I'm going to cover that over. Now the reason that I'm covering it over in Glad wrap is so the dough doesn't form a skin on top, because once it forms a skin it becomes very hard and it's really hard to use. So I'm going to sit that on top of my stove for 30 minutes, and then once that's doubled in size and where it needs to be, I'll be back with the rest of the to show you what else to do. All right, I'm back. Okay, so the interesting thing about pretzels is that we're actually going to parboil them in the water before we actually bake them in the oven. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring that water to a rolling boil, and then we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of baking soda. And the reason that we're doing this, and I had to just double check this again because it's been a long time since I've made them, is that it'll cause the water, it'll keep, hang on, how can I say it? It will cause a deep, hang on, I've got to get this out. It will cause a dip in the alkaline of the water bath before baking. So this essentially gelatinizes the outside of the pretzel, preventing it from fully springing during the baking as bread does. So it sort of stops it from rising in the sense, and that's what gives the pretzels their signature chewy crust, and it also gives them their unique, incredible pretzel flavor. So I've taken 1/3 of a cup of baking soda, which is a lot of baking soda. I'm just going to pop it in my pot and I'll be back. So while that is starting to boil, what I've done is I've taken a little bit of my dough, my pretzel dough, and I'm just going to roll it into the ball. Now my dough has a beautiful soft texture about it, so it's come up really nice. I'm really happy with it. I've just got to remember how to roll the pretzel and fold it because it's been a while. Okay, so with my dough, I'm going to roll it into a long sausage. So if you start from the middle and work your way out, that is the best way to keep your dough nice and even. If you kind of do it from the end and work your way in, you're going to end up with a big thick bit in the middle and then thin bits out the side. So work your way from the inside out as you roll your dough out. So I'm probably going to make it about 30 centimetres long, which is about the length of a ruler. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring it up and make it a horseshoe shape. And then we're going to cross this over and we're going to twist it around. So it looks like that. Hopefully you can see that well. And then what you're going to do is bring the sides out a little bit and then bring this twist down so that you've got that nice pretzel shape. All right. I've popped baking paper on my baking tray and I'm going to bring that over to where my pot is starting to boil. So give me 1 minute. And I'm going to pop my pretzel on my slotted spoon. So I've got a slotted spoon so that the water drains through. Oops, might help if I unplug you. Give me 1 sec. I'm just going to bring you over to where my pot is. Hopefully you can see that there. My pot water is starting to boil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my pretzel in here for, I'm just going to double check, make sure I get this right. Alright, so I'm just going to hold it in this boiling water for 30 seconds. Alright, and as I said, the idea is to give it that nice chewy crust that pretzels have. Once I've done this, I'm then going to pop it on my baking tray. I'm going to put an egg wash on top of it, and then I'm going to pop it in the oven at 180 degrees. Alright, so starting to boil it up really nicely. Alright, I'm going to take this out. So that's sort of what it looks like. And then I'm just going to, and if you feel the skin of it, it actually has kind of a bit of a my oven and bake it. And I'll get the rest of them done and then I'll come back and show you what we're going to do next. Okay, I'm back. So my pretzels have come out of the oven and they are amazing. Now I did put my oven on 190. It does say 230 on the recipe, but my oven cooks quite hot, so I turned it down a bit. They come out awesome. You want to make sure that when you coat them with the egg before you put them into the oven, that you sprinkle your cinnamon sugar on top of them. And then once they're out, I whipped up some, and the recipe's at the bottom, cream cheese, butter, vanilla essence, and some icing sugar. And I've just whipped it up here. And then all I'm going to do is put a little bit on top of my pretzel. And oh my God, these are amazing. That's all I have to say. They taste so good. So have a go at making them, guys, if you can, because like I said, you will not regret it. All right, so these are my pretzels. I might add a little bit more cinnamon sugar on the top just to give them a nice coating. So yeah, pretzels, really worth making, lots of fun, pretty easy, a lot of ingredients, and the main thing is to make sure that you boil them for about 30 seconds before you pop them in the oven to bake. All right, have a good day.